Hi guys, I just wanted to hop on here and go over the notes for this week. This is primarily for my Monday, Tuesday kids who I missed this week. So this is mainly for you, or if you are a Thursday, Friday kid and you are not going to be here on Thursday, we're going to go over these together in class. If you are not going to be here on Thursday, then obviously you can listen to this, fill in your notes that are on Google Classroom. If you're struggling to fill them in as you go, you can print them, remember. Also, I don't care if you write it on a piece of notebook paper and just write everything down. That's fine too, okay? So we're going to go kind of quickly because I am limited on time. So you can stop this, pause it, go back. If I'm going too quick, use your book. Page numbers are on here. It's going to give you more information. There's a lot of additional court cases in your textbook that you can use. I just picked out a few as we're going through. This chapter is called Liberty and Justice for All. And this section is called The Rights of the Accused. So it highlights 3 of our amendments that we have talked about before from the Bill of Rights. So these are all familiar. This is review, but we're going to go a little more in depth here and talk about some court cases and how they decide in the court cases and how that affects you or someone you would know who's accused of a crime. The first one affects all of us. The Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable search and seizure because I guarantee that sometime in your life you will be stopped by the police. And what are your rights as far as search and seizure? Or they may come to your home. What are your rights as far as them searching your property? Remember, the police need a search warrant or probable cause. But there's an exception to this rule. If the police see you actually breaking the law, they don't need a search warrant. So if they're watching and they see you steal something, they can stop you, they can search you, no search warrant needed. I would think that kind of fall into probable cause, but just a way that they do not need a search warrant. The first court case that they talk about in your book is called Wren versus United States. And what this one was is someone was stopped for a regular traffic stop, speeding, didn't stop for a stop sign, something like that. When they were stopped, they found drugs in the car. They then used those drugs in the court of law to charge the person. The person thought this went against their Fourth Amendment rights, search and seizure, because there was no search warrant. The judicial system, the courts sided in favor of the U.S., the judicial branch, and said that they can take anything that they see when they pull you over for another traffic stop. It's kind of like, goes back to that when you're breaking the law, they don't need a search warrant. Okay, the other one, kind of interesting here, California versus Greenwood. They found evidence in a garbage can outside of the person's home, used that against them. The person was found guilty. The person then appealed and said they could not use that evidence because it went against their Fourth Amendment right. They didn't have a search warrant to search the garbage cans. The courts decided that they do not need a search warrant for garbage, especially if it's outside of your home. So anything in your garbage is free reign. You can go dumpster diving, I guess. There is something called an exclusionary rule, which is important because this comes up several times in this section. Any illegally obtained evidence cannot be used against you in the court of law. Okay, which we will talk about here, a couple other court cases coming up. But exclusionary rule, if they illegally obtain evidence, they don't have a search warrant, come in your home, find something, can't be used against you in the court of law. Okay, how does this affect you in high school? This is just one court case about Fourth Amendment in schools. It's New Jersey versus TLO. TLO is the girl. They don't use her name because she was a minor. She had her purse searched for tobacco. They found the tobacco. They also found marijuana when they were searching. They then suspended the girl. She said it went against her Fourth Amendment right, and they shouldn't have been able to search because they didn't have a search warrant. Here's what the courts decided, and this affects us here at Fremont Ross as well. They do not need a search warrant or probable cause to search you, your property, the lockers, while you are here at school. So just a little bit of information for you. Now this is kind of interesting because the police would need probable cause to search you here at school. Police do, the principals do not. Okay, Also falling under this Fourth Amendment right is wiretaps. Can they tap into your phones? Can they listen to your conversations? Can they look through your text messages without your permission? Can they look on your searches on the internet to see what you're searching? And the court said that they cannot without a search warrant. So they can't tap in, listen to your phone conversations, again, check your text messages, which is good for some of you guys because you're texting some kind of questionable things there. Second Amendment, Fifth Amendment. Second Amendment we're talking about is the Fifth Amendment. Due process, self-incrimination, double jeopardy. I didn't put grand jury, but that was part of this one too. Couple court cases dealing with this. The first one is Escobedo versus Illinois. This man was accused of shooting and killing his brother-in-law. He asked for a lawyer several times during the conversation with the police. The police did not give him a lawyer. They continued to question him without the lawyer. He did say some things that sounded a little sketchy, like he was guilty. He incriminated himself. They could not use that in the court of law against him. That information or that evidence was thrown out. He was found not guilty, and it did seem like he did actually kill his brother-in-law, but he got away with it because they went against his right against self-incrimination. Remember, you can plead the Fifth. He could have pled the Fifth too, but they continued to question him, and again, his lawyer wasn't present. Miranda versus Arizona. This was a case of kidnapping and rape. This individual was picked out of a lineup. He confessed, wrote his confession down. He was never read his rights. He was never told that he had the right to remain silent. So the case was thrown out and he was never convicted of the kidnapping and rape. So this is why the police are so adamant to read your rights and make sure you understand your rights before they move forward so they can use any evidence against you in court. Okay, last amendment in this section of the book is the Eighth Amendment. Protects you from cruel and unusual punishment. Remember, this also includes that whatever your punishment is has to fit the crime. So if you get a speeding ticket, they can't put you in jail for 2 years for that. That would be cruel and unusual punishment. Okay. Under this, what this section mainly deals with, because cruel and unusual punishment can be all over the place, is the death penalty. Is the death penalty cruel and unusual punishment? That is the question, and they've been debating this question since the beginning of our country, pretty much. There's court cases that say it does go against our Eighth Amendment right, and there's court cases that say it does not, so it depends. The first one they talk about in the book is Furman versus Georgia. In this one, they said the death penalty was unconstitutional. They said that it was too arbitrary. It was all over the place. Sometimes it was used for someone who murdered someone. Sometimes it was used for drug convictions. It was not the same throughout the country, and that it targeted poor people and minorities as well. So in this case, Georgia said that it should not be allowed, but they didn't go as far as outlawing it completely, and nor did they have the power to outlaw it for the entire country. The next court case then is kind of the opposite, Gregg versus Georgia. They said capital punishment, again, both in Georgia here, capital punishment is okay. It does not violate your Eighth Amendment rights, and it is an expression of society's moral outrage. That's the exact words that were used in the court case. Is the death penalty allowed in Ohio? It is legal, but currently Governor DeWine has suspended all of our capital punishment for the time being. He says that the lethal injection, his ruling was the lethal injection goes against your Eighth Amendment right and should not be used. So until Ohio comes up with another way to carry out the death penalties, they are on hold for the time being or until we get a new governor. So kind of interesting, and something we'll talk about in class too, is the death penalty, does it go against your Eighth Amendment rights? Okay, so this, guys, these notes you're going to use to do your other assignment that is posted in Google Classroom. So You can look in your book and use any of these court cases. You can also Google and find other court cases to use, and there'll be a bigger explanation of the assignment in Google Classroom. So let me know if you guys have any questions.